Before we go into the podcast, I want to just talk about a business that I've set up with my friend George. It is called the Podcast Introduction Group. So if you want to join and be able to be featured on 24 to 48 podcasts to be able to reach an amazing audience, this is the place you need to go to. Podcast, being a guest on podcasts, is automatically establishing you as an authority and is able to build your personal and professional brand. We handpick of a bank of podcasters that we have to be able to grow your business and brand. We do 100% of everything that needs to be done by my team. You do not need to lift a finger. You are able to expose yourself to new and relevant markets by going on other people's podcasts. You also are able to create brand loyalty. People will love listening to you and coming back to your products or services, and it's able to increase your revenue. So if you want to be able to get involved, you can sign up quickly, registered with an account manager. There's an onboarding call where we target the podcasts that you want to be on, the type that you want, whether it's entrepreneurship, business, health, fitness, whatever it is. We then match you to those podcasts and you can start your journey. We have regular catch-ups with our account managers, and Google ranks you when people search for you. So when people are searching for you, you're able to see your podcasts at the top of the list. So if you are interested in being a podcast guest on multiple podcasts, we are the place to go. If you go to podcastintroduction.com and go and register your details, we will have a quick call with you, match your podcast that you want to be on, and we can then start this process ASAP. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Back onto the podcast then. Just one last thing before we go into the podcast. I just wanted to talk to you about the fact that I have a YouTube channel that has been going for quite some time, and I am recording and releasing all of my interviews with some short videos as well on YouTube. So please do check it out. YouTube on Absolute Business Mindset. You'll see a bunch of interviews there, all the longer format interviews and some short videos as well. So please enjoy that. And here goes with the podcast interview. Today we have Andy Dickens, who's the founder and CEO of Virtual Sales Limited. Hello, Andy. How are you today?
Yeah, pretty good, Mark. How yourself?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We're going to talk about your journey and about sales and go deep into the area of sales a little bit for my listeners, and a little bit. I've got a question that's very specific for my business as well. But I'd love to this is the benefit of having my own podcast. I can ask some questions about my own business as well. So, but thank you so much for joining me today. The podcast is called Absolute Business Mindset. What does a business mindset mean to you?
So a business mindset means to me somebody who might have a product or a service that they don't know how to take to market, and they want to get advice in terms of how to put a business plan together that they can make a product or service, and then how to publicize that product or service afterwards. And generally what I find in my experience with a lot of entrepreneurs is they come up with a great idea on the back of a beer mat, and it's then about taking that beer mat experience along the journey to getting their product or service to market, and that's all about the business journey, I think.
And I know we're going to talk about sales quite a lot. It's going to be a theme running through the whole of the podcast. But do you think that entrepreneurs should always be salespeople as well?
Good question. Again, in my experience, a lot of entrepreneurs are great at coming up with ideas. They're not necessarily salespeople in the first instance. What we find is that, and again, it relates to sales. A lot of entrepreneurs who start a company, unless they come from a sales background, generally they won't know where to start in terms of, what sales channels do I employ? Do I employ somebody? Do I outsource the development of sales to somebody else? And these are questions that we get in, day out with startup companies.
Yeah. I kind of think entrepreneurs should be salesmen to a point, because there's always someone, whether it's a new client that you've generated through a lead, whether it's marketing that you need to do, whether it's finding finance or whatever it is, there is always an element of sales. And that's why a lot of salespeople actually turn into entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
There is a natural path for people from that role into entrepreneurship.
And that typically again, we find with, startup companies, they'll perhaps look to their own network to start with and maybe sell the product or service into their own network. And then after that, it's like a brick wall they're presented with, and the blinkers come down, and it's, headless chicken mode. Where do I go next? How do I get help to move from where I've got to, which I'm very happy with, to the next stage, which is scaling my business?
Absolutely. Look, we're going to come back to sales in a minute, but one of the questions I wanted to ask you was a little bit about your upbringing and so tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are now.
So I think my upbringing, my dad was always into sales. So he sold lifts for a living, worked for Otis and quite a lot of the major lift manufacturers in the world today. Starting as a basic salesman, and then worked his way up to running a territory and then a regional manager for these companies. And it was quite funny when I was growing up. Obviously, I knew that he was into sales, and I remember saying to him that, I'm not interested, Dad, in getting into sales. You won't get me moving into sales, Dad. And I went to Loughborough University. I've studied business studies. And actually, towards the end of the 4-year degree, one of the lecturers came in and said, "Anybody fancy a career in sales?" Somehow, I put my hand up, said, "Yeah, I'll give that a go." And that first opportunity was with in the days of dedicated word processors. So this was, a big machine, the advancement of 5.25-inch floppy disks. And all the rest of it. And so I started with a company called Data Recall in Dorking, moved down from Sheffield, and that's where my career in sales started. But I was actually employed as a sales engineer to start with. So I was doing all these demos and preparing it. And essentially, I was winning the business, but the sales guy was getting all the commission.
Right.
Consequently, I went to the sales director and said, "Look, I'm doing all this work. I'm not getting the commission. I want to move into sales." And that's how I got into sales, was, then taking a gamble on a rookie that was good from a technical perspective, from a sales engineering background, into sales. And then they gave me my first territory, and I managed to be successful in the first 3 months. And with that grew into, looking after London W1 postcode, which was the premier postcode in the UK. Yeah. Did very well and became the top selling sales guy there.
Right. Well, we'll move through the journey of your sales, but do you think your business studies degree actually helped you as a salesman when you were starting out as a rookie?
I think it helped in as much as business studies offers a very wide elements. You've got maths, you've got economics, you've got psychology, sociology, law. So I think all those elements together give a good grounding. So I wouldn't say it necessarily helped me with the landing and creating the first sales job, but from a business perspective, when you're speaking to entrepreneurs, business owners, being able to understand their pain points and then assign it to the service that you're offering or product or service, I think that really helps a lot. So, yes, I think it helped in the respect of giving me a basic understanding of business and what the pain points are that customers have.
What do you enjoy about selling and sales?
Closing the sale. Always have done.
Is that the best bit? Yeah,
absolutely. I love. And what my golden technique is, I ask a closing question and then I shut up.
Yeah.
Silence is golden. Yeah. And I've used that so many times over the years, and all the sales teams that I've had over the years. Yeah, that's been one of the things that, I try to instill in them, is there's lots of good sales techniques you can use to flush out objections to move to the next stage of the sales process.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
So you moved from doing sales roles into then sales director roles.
Yeah.
Is the sales director roles more sort of looking after the rest of the sales team in their different territories?
Yeah. So as an example, when I was at Visio, which was a drawing and diagramming piece of software so I was employee number 2 in Europe there, working for my boss's front room for the first year, building the business up from scratch, from nothing. So we had, no revenue, no salespeople, etc. So that started off, me and him, me doing all the sales work, and then obviously we needed to scale the business. So I then moved into more of a sales management role, recruiting and managing a sales team to hit the targets that Visio put on us. So the thing that I enjoy is I like leading from the front. So I would never ask a salesperson that I employ to do anything that I wouldn't be prepared to do for myself.
And there is something in that as an entrepreneur, understanding the market and understanding the role. So I started a podcasting business, which we were just talking about before we came online, which is about helping people be guests on podcasting. And the reason why we've been able to be successful, me and my business partner, is because we've both come with different skill sets in the podcasting field. I'm a podcaster, done over 400 episodes. My business partner did 60 podcast guesting slots in a year. So we kind of have that experience that we can then share with our clients.
Yeah.
That transition from you to be a salesperson into a sales director role and all the roles that because I know you did numerous roles as a sales director.
Yeah.
And that was very important to you that you wouldn't ask them to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur and leading on to your business, Virtual Sales Limited, do you think the reason your success is because you're a great entrepreneur or because you're a great salesman?
I'd say both. Primarily, I'm a great salesperson first and foremost. Got a great track record, been successful, but it's also about understanding what the opportunity is, which is obviously been an entrepreneur. When I started the company all those years ago, I spotted an opportunity to do things differently in the telemarketing world, and that was built on the evidence that I had working for companies like Visio and Red Hat, 2 technology companies who at the time were using traditional call center type companies to do all their calling and appointment setting. And that was really the catalyst for me starting Virtual Sales Limited.
What made you want to do it yourself? What made you not want to be an employee?
Well, firstly, I didn't have any choice. I got made redundant at Red Hat.
Okay.
So in 2001, the dot-com bubble burst. I don't know if we remember that far back, but IT companies were hiring. And then, the dot-com bubble burst and suddenly, companies were losing money hand over fist. So as sales director for Europe, I'd been at Red Hat for a couple of years. employee number 2 in Europe to help build not only the sales team up, but the revenues, etc. And then being one of their most expensive hires, they couldn't afford to keep me. So I walked away with a nice wedge in the pocket, not life-changing, but enough to think about, doing something myself. And, I'd got to the stage in my career where, I've got all this experience. I thought it might be good to share that experience with other people and do it for myself rather than, make money for myself rather than for other companies. And that's what I did. And that's the catalyst for joining the company was my experience of using bad call center type companies and wanting to put it right in a model that was different to the traditional call center companies.
So that's really interesting. And this was one of the questions I wanted to come on, but we might as well start it now. How has telesales changed in the 20 years of Virtual Sales Limited? Because I still remember in the sort of late 90s, early noughties, that there were literally offices where people just called and called and called, and it was an attrition. It was a you had to make 200
numbers.
Calls, 200 calls a day to be able to turn maybe 2 or 3 or 5 into sales. How has telesales specifically changed in 20 years?
So what we do is telemarketing, which is different to telesales. Telesales is all about closing deals, selling products and services. We don't do that. So we do telemarketing, and that's changed dramatically over the years. So the way it's changed is obviously now it's more about quality rather than quantity. For our clients that we work with, all business to business, they want meetings that are well qualified, typically to BANT, which stands for budget, authority, need, timescale. So they want an opportunity that's been quite pre-qualified, so there's a genuine interest in their product or service, which makes their life as an entrepreneur so much easier because they can basically get on a Teams or a Zoom call or, maybe even face-to-face in the future, who knows, and actually do what they're good at, which is converting that opportunity into a sale. So I think the other thing that's changed is data requirements and adhering to GDPR as a compliance. So companies used to be able to just get, in the old days, the yellow pages, if you remember that, ring all the numbers up in there, no regard for compliance and whether it was okay to reach people. Now with GDPR, it's a lot tighter. So as a company at Virtual Sales, we take that very seriously. So we work with companies like Cognizant. We've worked together for about 5 years, and Cognizant supplies for our clients. So our clients can select by country, data by country, by vertical market, by size of company, by job persona. And once we get agreement with the client, that data will be fully GDPR compliant. So it's all companies that have opted in to receive information from companies like ourselves. And in addition, we have extra tools. We use LinkedIn and a product called Lusher, which will give us direct dial and mobile numbers from LinkedIn profiles. Again, we ensure that all the data that we work with our clients, to protect them from getting a hefty fine, it needs to be fully GDPR compliant. So I think the biggest changes are customers are more savvy in terms of what they want from a campaign. And secondly, compliance has been a big issue. Obviously, I guess we need to touch on it. The pandemic was a big thing for everyone on the worldwide company, for all companies. Interesting that during the pandemic, I expected our business just to fall off a cliff. In fact, it went the opposite way. I think because a lot of companies moved to the remote model, working from home, they took the opportunity to get rid of a lot of salespeople. But they still need to do what I call the grunt work, which is basically building and nurturing a sales pipeline and developing qualified opportunities. So the pandemic and recessions are usually good for companies like Virtual Sales.
We can go in lots of different avenues, but one I want to touch base with now is is about the additional friction, the sort of the customer savvy, the fact that people are bombarded with marketing everywhere, that they were on their phones, on their laptops, wherever they're working. Do you think there is a huge difference now with that additional friction, that people are a bit more savvy to salespeople?
Absolutely. And we see it day in, day out. It's not only that, Mark, it's also companies have had bad experiences of similar companies to ours. We get that quite a lot where, I've tried companies like yours and I've had a really bad experience. And we have to apologize on behalf of companies that we don't even know for a bad experience with the client. And it's usually because they haven't understood the client's value proposition, how to take it to market, what data they need, what reporting they need on the back end. So we treat our clients as if we're an extension to their company. So in many ways, we become their SDR team, sales development representative, but on an outsourced basis. So we represent our client's brand very fully. So it's all about making sure that we don't do anything to disrespect our client's brand. That, as I say, we become an extension to that company. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we use outsourced email companies, outsourced LinkedIn companies to get inbound leads to virtual sales. And a lot of the responses are, I don't normally respond to emails like this, but your approach is slightly different, and therefore I want to know more. And I think, a company like virtual sales has got to have credibility. So it's all about being credible and showing the transparency that you've got clients that are very happy with your product and services. So good case studies, good testimonials to back up the service that we offer.
Is everything that you do for each client bespoke?
Yeah. So every campaign is totally bespoke. So what we don't do is do sell leads or anything like that. So we take a brief from our clients. So we got our clients to fill out a campaign briefing document. So who they are, what they do, how they do it, sweet spot, target audience, pain points for their product and service. And then we package that up and have a kickoff call with the team. So the caller and a project manager to go through the customer's value proposition and hear it from the horse's mouth. So we always get the entrepreneur to tell us how they would pitch it to a prospect, because there's one thing seeing it written down, there's another thing hearing it. So we get all that training before we start our campaign in those. But yeah, so each and every campaign is bespoke for us.
And one of the things when I was doing some reading about you, it was the role of data-driven sales as well. Yeah. So why don't you tell me what that is and how you're able to leverage that for your clients?
Yeah. So data is probably one of the most essential ingredients in any successful telemarketing campaign. So data, there's usually two ways of doing that. So if a company has already got a data set that they've warmed up, then we can take that data from the customer, or we use a product, a service like Cognizant, as I mentioned before. The other way of doing it is to take, if a prospect has a list of domain names or companies they want to target, we can feed that through the Cognizant engine and get the most up-to-date contacts them to target. So the benefit of working with virtual sales is we can give our clients the most up-to-date data back. So once a week, we send them an email showing them all the call metrics for the week, number of calls, conversations, warm leads, and book meetings, but also a copy of the data back from our cloud-based CRM, so they can actually see all the opportunities that are developing in the pipeline, and they can then market to the opportunities. They can upload that into their own CRM, maybe Salesforce or HubSpot, and obviously the benefit to the client is that they're getting a much better data set than they were started with. Some companies don't have any data. I would say 90% of companies that we work with don't have any data to start with. So we have to source the data to match their criteria in terms of the sweet spot of the customers they want to target. Or some companies have data and we can enhance and enrich that data for them. But, I would suggest it all starts and ends with good data. If you've got rubbish data, you're going to expect bad results.
And do you go along the sort of marketing route of finding an avatar that the ideal client would be, or is it more like how do you sort of help them when they're trying to work out if they're a little bit earlier stage and they're trying to work out who their ideal client is before you can target them? How do you take them through that journey?
So most small startup companies will have some sales. So they're, even if the entrepreneur, the MD, has sold to a friend who works in, say, manufacturing or financial services, whatever that is, it's all about building a repeatable solution. So our advice to any small company that is in startup mode is, look to the clients you've been successful with, and then let's see if we can get more of those. Why? Because they're all going to have similar pain points to the ones you've already sold to, which makes your job as the entrepreneur closing more deals more happily. And then down the route, we can also add on extra vertical markets. We can suggest extra vertical markets that we've had success in, which we think might be appropriate to their product or service.
Do you think sales now in 2023 is more about graft or craft?
I'd say craft. I think it's all about today. You need to get more of an understanding of your client than you ever did before. You need to almost get under the hood of the client and see what the engine's like, the people, the personalities, the value proposition. So we get a lot of clients come to us who don't really understand what their value add is, as it were. So we do take the time to help them understand how their business looks from the outside. And a lot of companies get value from filling out our campaign briefing document because it makes them think about what their end customer and what their prospects are looking for. So most of our clients actively enjoy the initial journey with us because they feel more productive from going through that exercise with us.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think something we've learned with our business is that there is still a place for volume and sort of targeting volume, but equally warm leads that have started that process of know, like, and trust in you, whether that's from a referral or whether that's from knowing someone within a company or whatever it is. Those are for a small business anyway, those are the types of lead that you're more likely to convert rather than if you've got thousands of emails going out as a targeting method. So you're I know you said you're doing telemarketing rather than telesales. So actually, although it is a sales company you work for, marketing is massively important part of what you do.
I would suggest that sales and marketing are, really joined together. I would suggest you can't do sales without marketing. You can't do marketing without sales. And a lot of companies that I've worked for in the distant past, there used to be a real conflict between sales and marketing. They have to be joined. They have to be going in the same direction. Sales need marketing as much as marketing needs sales. And if you don't understand that as a small company and an entrepreneur, then you'll realize that very quickly that those two roles are joined up by the hip.
Yeah, I was talking to someone on a podcast. I can't remember who it was, and he said that. Oh, yes, I know, Sean Kawari, and he was saying he went into a company as a consultant trying to boost their sales and revenue, and he walked into the office. and the sales team were way over there in the left-hand side, and the marketing team was way over there in the right-hand side. And he immediately said, you guys need to be sitting together. Why are you not cross-pollinating, understanding where you're approaching, how the marketing is being positioned so the sales can learn from that and build from that? And so that was really resonated with me. What you said there is that the sales team at the minimum should be giving feedback to the marketing team to be able to be saying, look, I'm winning this client, I'm being successful, I'm not being successful with this client. Does that mean we need to tweak the marketing? There is such a there's such a synergy between both of them. Why do you think some people still are in that position where they think they're totally separate to their business?
I think a lot of it is historical. It's historically it's always been that sales are on one side, marketing on the other, for whatever reason. But I think, in 2023, they need to be aligned. And I think the companies that have a sales and marketing department rather than the sales department and the marketing department are the ones that are going to be successful moving forward.
Just to take it in a slightly different angle, what type of leader do you think you are? I'm more a sort of gung-ho, lead from the front, rally the troops. So I like to motivate the sales guys that work for me. So, I would say that I'm a good motivator. And also, they'll know that I've done it before. So that instills confidence to them that, as I said at the beginning, I'm not asking them to do anything that I wouldn't do for myself. So I think motivation is a key component, a key strength of mine, and leading from the front. Do you still do sales calls?
I still, every day, this call we're having now is more like a sales call to me. It's, we're selling to each other. It's all about, moving to the next topic, next conversation. So, day in, day out, I'm prospecting. I'm taking inbound inquiries and converting them into sales qualified opportunities.
The word that had just sprung to me just then is an element of control of the conversation. As a salesperson now, do you think there's, or do you think they've always needed, a salesperson is needed to control the flow, the way the conversation's going to be able to close them?
Yeah, absolutely. Sales, as you know, it's all about moving from one sales stage to the next. So, closing sales is something we touched on earlier that, I really enjoy. I enjoy the moment that the deal closing. But, I'm a great believer in ABC, always be closing. So you need to close, one element, get agreement to move to the next stage, and ultimately to close the deal. And that's all about control. You need, as a sales guy, you need to have control of the client and what the objections are to you moving to the next stage in the sales process, or indeed to close that deal.
So that's just something I wrote down, just saying, like, overcoming objections. How do you teach your guys to overcome objections?
Well, lucky enough, most of the guys, I've got a team of 25 guys and girls. They're all very mature, very experienced. So we typically don't. So I deliberately hire people that are self-starters, got all this experience. So luckily, I don't have to do that today. But in the past, overcoming objections, is paramount in all the sales courses that I've ever attended. Get yourself on a good sales course that can be that can help you not only go through overcoming sales objections, but getting past the gatekeeper, and all those good and still things. We've also got on our website, we've also got a list of some good blogs like Getting Past the Gatekeeper. That's right. Our number one viewed blog. over the last
I don't
5
doubt
years
that
or so.
for a second. The PAs, VAs, secretaries
Yeah,
who are deliberately
yeah,
positioned to stop guys like you and me
yeah.
actually reaching out to
But
them.
do you know what? I love that. It's just that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And getting past the gate and finding ways, to get past them is quite interesting.
Um, do you like, so you're an experienced guy, you've been doing this over 25 years?
22 years at virtual sales, and then obviously, add on another probably 15, 20 years for other companies along the way.
What has the role of a mentor for you? Have you had mentors? Do you have a mentor now?
I don't have a mentor now. Probably the biggest mentor for me with my career before I started the company was a guy called Jim Horsburgh. So he recruited me when he was sales director for a company called Central Point Software. So PC Tools was the product, competed with Peter Norton. So Norton Enterprise, Norton Antivirus, those sort of products.
Oh, yeah.
So he in fact, take a step back. He recruited me at Olivetti. So Olivetti first hired me. So I'd been doing sales for quite a while, and I fancied the change into product marketing. So Jim hired me at Olivetti, and I ran product marketing for their networking team. So that was a great experience of coming at it from the other side of the fence. So rather than having a product or service to sell, I was defining what that product and service was, and
Right.
working with the sales team of Olivetti. And that still involved a lot of selling, because you have to sell to your peers rather than to the outside customers. So I did that for a while. So Jim recruited me to that role, and then he went off to Olivetti in Italy, head office. I went on to WordStar, which was a word processing software company, again in the product marketing role, and then moved back into sales. The lure of sales, after a few years, I couldn't contain it anymore, and I just, I couldn't contain myself. I had to get back into that. So did that. And then Jim started at a company called Central Point Software. They were looking for someone to manage their channel sales. And so through a recruiter that we both mutually knew, he put me in touch again with Jim. And so Jim got me into that role. We did 5 years successfully together, beat all the targets. And then eventually we were acquired by Peter Norton, our biggest competitor. So that was an interesting journey in terms of managing the acquisition. And then Jim got the role at Visio as head of Europe, and I joined him at Visio as sales manager, and it started to roll again. And then we parted ways when I went to Red Hat. But I would say that Jim's probably had a very big influence in terms of my success, and how to move my career from one stage, from the classic salesperson to a fully fledged sales director role, which are completely different roles.
I kind of feel there's an elephant in the room, and I want to broach it here now. So a lot of people's belief is that salespeople are motivated by money, and that's why they do sales, is to be able to make really good money from being able to sell. What's your relationship? What's your view of money and the role it plays in sales?
I think it's very important. Money definitely motivates people, but I would argue with companies like Virtual Sales, it's more about keeping the client for a long term rather than the quick wins. So
Right.
What we see, our sales guys really enjoy keeping the client that they've closed for a long period, like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah, we've had some clients, 7 or more years. And what they enjoy most is keeping that client and working with them day in, day out, as if they were employed by that company. So that's what motivates our sales team. But obviously, me growing up as a sales guy, money was very important to me in terms of, getting that next deal, pocketing the commission, and moving on to the next one. So I think money definitely helps, but where we are right here and right now, it's not about the money. It's about keeping the client happy and keeping the client onboarded for a long time.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. So what's the plan for the next 2 to 5 years for Andy and his business?
So one of the things that we did over the last couple of years was move to more of a subscription model. So previous to that, we'd been invoicing bespokely for each and every client. But one of my customers said to me a couple of years ago, he said, Andy, I've never understood why you don't sell your services on a subscription basis. And I said, well, what do you mean? How can we do that? He said, well, you've got a service, you've got data, and you've got reporting. Why don't you bundle all those elements together in a package that is easy to understand for a client? And obviously, like software as a service, it's telemarketing as a service. And it was one of those light bulb moments. I thought, actually, we can do this. So then briefed our web guy who put together the platform on our website. And so that was about 18 months ago. And now probably 90% of our ongoing sales are monthly subscriptions, which means that the great thing for the client is they're not tied into any long-term contracts. Yeah. The good thing for virtual sales, it's a recurring income stream. Yeah. So obviously, the end game plan will be for some company to come in and buy our company, but benefit from the subscription model that we have. So we have lots of recurring income.
So is the plan to sell to a larger company?
Might be a larger company, or I may just hand over to one of the current guys and let them run with it.
Okay.
And I'll probably, to the day I die, I'll probably still be involved in the company from some shape or form.
Excellent.
Like a typical entrepreneur, it's difficult to let go, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's my baby.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've interviewed probably over 150 people, and the number of people that say once they sold a business, they kind of miss the business very much. So obviously it sets them up financially, and what you find is a lot of entrepreneurs will start another business and they'll start it from the bottom again. But yeah, it's interesting that actual sale of business can sometimes be a bit of a difficult thing to overcome, because once you've sold it, you can't control the direction that it goes in anymore. And something you've nurtured for such a long time, especially you with 22 years in your business.
Yeah.
It would be
I find that very difficult.
It'd be pretty heartbreaking if someone bought you and then closed down the business and absorbed your people in another way. It would just be heartbreaking, wouldn't it?
It would. Yeah. And the thought of doing it again, I don't know whether I could, go through the whole thing and start it again, but who knows?
What is your favorite stage of running a business? Is it the startup stage? Is it the growth stage? Is it the scaling stage?
Startup. I love startup companies. I've been involved with a lot of startup companies where we've, I've helped to grow the sales and the business, and we've either been acquired, gone public. So Visio, I was lucky enough to be early doors in there. They went public on NASDAQ, and then they got bought by Microsoft. Red Hat, similarly, they went public on the NASDAQ. So I really enjoy getting things started. So in many ways, I still think of virtual sales as a startup. I know it's been going 22 years, but I still think of it as a startup company. We're always changing. We're looking at doing things differently, and like with the subscription model to help us move to a different model to benefit our client.
Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick-fire questions. They don't need a quick-fire answer. The first one is, what was the best decision that you've made?
the best decision I made was coming out of corporate life and starting my own company, Virtual Sales.
Is that because financial reasons or
No, not financially. No, it's doing something that I'd always thought I would do in the future, and having destiny in my own hands. It was all about, if I didn't do it, nobody else would do it, and it's the buck stops with me. And it's quite a scary thing, when you've got a mortgage, you've got kids growing up, to step outside of your comfort zone in terms of that monthly paycheck, and then you've got to think, how the hell, where's the money coming from? But luckily,
it's weirdly addictive, though, isn't it?
Oh, very addictive, yeah. But also, ask my wife. It's a 24/7 job. I'm always on emails. I always like to, if somebody sends me an email at the weekend, that's interested in talking to me, I'll always respond to that, because it's all about, I like to be quick. I'm one of the first to respond to an inquiry coming in.
Mm. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Best piece of advice is plan properly. Don't go to market with a product or service until you've got everything joined up. So by that, I mean, you obviously need to articulate what your value proposition is. You need to know who your target audience is, and you need to test that message, so that someone like yourself or your own inside sales team can take that and run with it and scale your business. So you've got to have good preparation alongside. It's not just about having a good product idea. You need to think outside the box, and what are the ingredients to make that product or service successful in the future.
What about the sort of mentality of sort of learn while you grow, rather than necessarily having because what I've heard lots of people say, they get into that analysis paralysis stage, and they analyze the market, they understand the clients, and then they end up not doing it. A lot of, or some entrepreneurs that sort of I follow in social media and various places sort of say it's better to start and then develop than spend 20 years sort of analyzing the market, thinking, oh, now the opportunity's gone. What's your mentality on people that want to grow and learn how the market's going to react on certain things?
I think that's got a place in the marketplace, but I think you still you need to go through the basics, so it's, you've got a great product or service, who are you going to sell to, and are they interested in buying your services? That doesn't take that long. You're not talking months or years to gather that intelligence. And often when we get started on a campaign, we can give good market intelligence back to that client, good, bad, or indifferent, which will help them, make decisions in terms of what they do next. So I think it's important to do the groundwork, but don't sit on it for months and years and analyze it to the nth degree, because as you rightly say, you might talk yourself out of doing it.
Sometimes the blind ignorance of being an entrepreneur actually can be quite helpful. I suppose from my example, I'm 42 now. I quit my corporate job over 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. Worked in corporate for 14 years. Was very used to the salary, and actually the salary going, it's a totally different mindset that you have to be in. And I think, like, there were people that I knew in corporate that always wanted to start their own business, just were scared. And I suppose financially, mortgages, kids and things like that can often stop people from doing that. But if it's what you really want to do, I think you should try and do it.
I would say just do it. At the end of the day, my philosophy was, if it doesn't work out, I'll give it a year. If it didn't work out, I'll go and get a job.
Yeah.
But then now I'm unemployable. There's no way I could go and work for somebody else now.
Yeah, most entrepreneurs are unemployable at the end. You told me about a mentor that helped you through Visio, etc. But my next question is usually, who's helped you most in your career? Is there another person that sort of you want to give a shout out to that helped you?
Not really. I think Jim has been he's been the real guy that stood behind me, believed in me, pushed me forward, and enabled me to grow from where I was to what I am today. So I'd give I'd give a big shout out to Jim.
Cool. Tell me about a regret that you have.
Not doing it sooner. So, I've been around for a long time. I've got the grey hairs, grow testament to it. Maybe I wish that I'd done that, 10 years sooner, but you can't regret. So, I've got no regrets in terms of the career I had. It's benefited me and my family throughout the years. But I think starting and running a successful company like Virtual Sales has really been, a key highlight of my career.
Cool. What are you most proud of?
I'm proud of running a company for 22 years, building and nurturing my own team up of like-minded people, and running a successful business that clients like to buy from.
What does legacy mean to you?
So legacy, I would hope that somebody could take the baton and run with it, be it external or internal. I'd like to see Virtual Sales, the brand continue. We've got a good brand awareness. I'd like to see that continued in some shape or form, be it somebody internally running with it or an external company.
Obviously, there's no pressure on naming a name, but do you have someone? Is there someone internally that you're thinking might be able to run with the business? Great.
Correct. Yeah, there's someone that I've been working with and developing over the past 7 years. So yeah, she's getting more of the day-to-day stuff that I've been doing. So when I take holidays or stuff like that, then I'm happy now to move things across to her, knowing that she'll do a great job on the business development element of the work that we do. Amazing.
And lastly, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
So they can find us on the website, www.virtual-sales.com. And all our contact details are on there. Absolutely. I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter.
What's your preferred platform?
LinkedIn.
Cool. All right, then. Thank you so much, Andy. It's been absolutely fascinating speaking to you. Really interesting hearing about your journey and about your expertise. So thank you so much for your time.
Yep. Thank you, Mark. Really enjoyed it.